different aspects related to storing personal and confidential data and also sharing it. So the topic for today is about we have how you should consider security and what is about to keep the data secure, how we should classify the research data, and like what the research data is confidential and what is not, what is sensitive personal data, and then what services are safe to use, what kind of storage system and services you can use safely with personal or confidential data, how you can collaborate with other people in other organizations if you deal with confidential data, and then what are the security measures that you can take, how you can make even more sure depending on how confidential data you have, and what are the risks related to your data sets. Different data has different kind of risks even, so what you can do to mitigate those risks and to be safe with your data. So let's go at the start for the important basics things. I'll talk about a lot about storage systems and technologies and risk related that, but let's just start. So the most important are the people here. Two people are in the picture also to remind of that. So people who work with data are in the key role of keeping the data confidential. I mean, while also for the nasty people that would like to get the access to the data, they might also target the people instead of the information systems. So just handle with care and talk with each and everyone who is working with confidential data, that they know that data is confidential and they know how to work securely with that. That's a big point you can take and a big step you can take, so you are on the safe side when you are considering the data confidentiality and handling it with care. And how then can you take good care of your data? So not only to prevent this unauthorized access, but just keeping the data accessible so that people who need the data can really get that. You should prevent the data is lost for accidents or some mistakes, and also avoid some unwanted changes that the data will be changed without noticing, or you will have some conflicting versions of files. But these kind of small things are also very important part of data security. So if you think about, you might lose your file, where was it? So how you can prevent that? You can organize your file with the folders and logical names, so you can later on, and someone else can later on know and find and locate the real information they are looking for. Another problem might arise that, okay, you can get the folder, but you can get the access there, and even the owner for the file or folder is now not anymore in Aalto. So to ensure the access to data, you should share your files with a group from the beginning, so that people who might need the access during the course of the project already have it, even though you would have this individual style of working that each one has certain folders and files they are working with. But having the access shared with the whole group will ensure the data access also later on. And what about then if you have data on USB drive and it's lost? Do you have another copy? You might lose the data then. Also, it's very, you know the location very well. There is it in my USB drive in myself, and so it's easy to think about, okay, it's safe. Yeah, it might be, but what is it? You have to carry it somewhere lost or something happens. So having the storage with automatic backups is a good thing to help this. And if you happen to lose your laptop or USB drive, USB stick, USB drive on some public base or totally lost, you should make sure that there's no confidential data within it. So if you have readily available, everyone might plug it your USB drive or stick to their computer and read all the confidential personal data. That's bad. And then you should contact the security at aalto.fi to inform them about the data breach. And of course, about changes, if you have a more final version of the file, it might be difficult to, after 1 or 2 years, check what is the final version of certain files. So cleaning up the files as you go, and at least at the very end of the project is a good approach to take there. So these are all important parts of the security. And if you have having confidential or non-confidential data, these practices are taking good care of your data and should be followed. And then about how you could classify the research data. So in Aalto University, we follow this principle as open as possible, as closed as necessary. So there are some, quite many aspects actually that might lead to that you should limit this availability of data or to keeping data open or public. So not everything can be open. Sometimes it's necessary, and there are things from legislation, ethics, some agreements, commercial interests. Commercial interests might be those of the Aalto or researchers, or then those of the partner. But then it says these are all just and good reasons and necessary reasons and needs to keep the data closed or shared to limited audience only. And we also therefore need to classify the data so that we know, is this certain file, certain information, certain document something that can be shared widely, openly public? Should it be only shared within Aalto or only a restricted name people? And if it's a very sensitive data in a way that it might lead some real damages if you expose to wider audience, then it might be even classified as secret. So the basic classification options in Aalto are public, internal, confidential, or secret. So public means that, okay, the information may be given to some third party on request. It doesn't have to be published on a web page for everyone in any time, just openly access, but it's something that we don't have any reason to keep it secret or confidential if anyone asks. So data doesn't hurt anybody if it's revealed. For example, this kind of a measuring data from the experimental lab, and the project is funded by Academy of Finland, which requires the results to be open and the underlying data to open. So there's no reason to keep this measuring data a secret. But on the other hand, the measuring data itself doesn't serve very much people besides the research group who are actually working with the device and know the experiment and know the experiment settings. So it's not very wise to just useful just publish it under aalto.fi, for example. So you don't have to publish it anywhere. It might not be useful to publish it as is, but in any way, it's nothing that secret that would need some precautions. And internal data is mean that it's for the university people only, Aalto University employees and students. And this is something like basically draft meeting memos, notes, internal training material, emails, and all of that could be kept in internal for Aalto University. Kind of this lot of for research project meeting memos might be something like that if there's nothing more confidential handled there. So quite a lot of data would be fall under public or internal categories. But then confidential data is when you have to specify in a list of names. You can specify the names. So okay, these are only the people who may access this data because they need it in their work. And usually by legislation or agreements say that okay, this data is confidential. So we treat the personal data of research subject. If you have a lot of research subject and volunteers, normal people going to your research and you are making a research with collaboration, they give a consent to like participate in the research, and you get some personal data from them. So we keep that as confidential. If there are commercialization, trade secrets, or some research results prior you publish them, so you want to keep them confidential and be the first one to make the research paper and article about that. So those are all valid reasons, and there are many more to keep the data confidential. And secret data has been specified more closely. Patient records, health data, security data, and usually that's something that would cause major damage if disclosed. So we often the classification is risk-based in say what if the information is disclosed, what are the damages, and then you can set up the right security level and classification level. Are you talking about secret data or confidential? And there are good guidelines, and aalto.fi FI as a quick guide to information classification and processing and information systems you can use. So there's about 5 pages long PDF that will explain the different categories with example data, and then list quite many common Aalto information systems and what of those you can use for and under which conditions for each type of these for data. And now we are going to look at more detail these classifications. So today we are talking about confidential and secret data. So to elaborate a little bit more about these examples, for example, invention disclosures before filing the patent application should be kept confidential. These are like easy examples that has been stated somewhere like in legislation or how policies that this is confidential. Business secret is confidential, partner stamps this is confidential, then it's confidential, and also is normally in agreements and non-disclosure agreements that we have to respect that. And also, if they are directly identifiable personal data of research subject, that easily stated as confidential. Confidential and other personal data as well. We try to keep it confidential, even if the data subject thinks that okay, I can reveal some personal data of myself in social media channels or wherever publicly, even that's their choice. They can do it, but as a researcher in Aalto, we shouldn't do that for them. So we should keep it confidential, and we should try to arrange our process in that way. And then some details of information system security arrangements, for example, are kept confidential only, and only for those information system administrators to know, because that might give some hints to the possible potential attackers that what are the security arrangements we have in place and what might be the weak points they could target on. But that's why they should also be kept confidential. And then secret data is something like health data, patient records, and sensitive personal data that has major damage when disclosed, or then persons, buildings related to security arrangement details as such national security things could fall under that category. And then about when you have a certain data and you don't know which one is it, how to classify what you should do, you should actually balance the risk of disclosure. What happens if someone else knows about the data? You leak all of the data or part of it, and then also the security measures needed. What security measures you have to take to keep the data confidential or secret. So, for example, is there commercialization value of the information to Aalto or for you or other partners? And how great is that value? So are you going to trust some cloud services, or can you keep it even more internal to Aalto network folders? These kind of practical questions. And do you trust the cloud service providers and their home countries not to leak the data anywhere else? Of course, one point of interest for you is to be just first to publish some scientific discovery and the article and the information. So you might want to check that you have that kind of a crucial information somewhere kept confidentially only for you until you get the article out. And then, of course, risk of identifying this individual for the privacy reasons, and what is the data if there will be some privacy disclosure, people will know who have been participating in research and what else that they can learn about those research things, answers to survey, or if you have been measuring some physiological things, or you have a lot of faces in the image data bank, or whatever is your research. So what kind of privacy risks are there if the data that you have collected from the individuals is somehow disclosed? So does it make any harm to them or not? So, and also this is the classification may change. So during research project, data can be first confidential and then published openly later. So the timing is also important. When you talk about the innovations, patent applications, the patent actually are then public when it's granted, and so on. And also we publish research articles and information that might be first confidential is then public. So that's how it might also evolve over time. But these are the basics, and also the Aalto.fi has a lot of more information. At the moment there are even more pages in Finnish about tiedonluokittelu than all the we are waiting or still from some English translations on that side, but for the quick wide information security, as least that one is in English available there. Then what is sensitive personal data? So from legislation specifies that quite well. So it includes the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, which has a term called special categories of personal data, and it listed over here. So it has this kind of more sensitive aspects of human behavior, like political opinions, race, ethnic origin, religious, philosophical beliefs, and then some genetic data, biometric data in the purpose of identifying a natural person. And then if the data concerns health, sex life, or sexual orientation, so those are categories, a special category of personal data that you should really pay extra attention to. And also as well, sensitive personal data and legislation are like data that is related to criminal records, social security number, bank account details. And that's something that we should, if we as researchers get one, should be kept secret. And pseudonymization is always minimizing the data so that you would have this kind of an identifier, which would not be social security numbers as such, but someone else that you make up for your research, and to keep out personal identities, direct identifiers like names, faces, emails, or social security numbers away in some other location, and replacing them with just IDs. That would give some extra security layer for you if you lose the data set with pseudonymous IDs. There not that much damage, direct damage happening. And so it's also only the main idea is that only data subject can decide whether they want to disclose some data about themselves, so they can decide about disclosing not the researcher. So that's why we try to keep it secret as we can. And also this quick guide as a good list of IT services that are approved for classified data. You can go to column confidential or secret and look what is permitted and what is not. And briefly said, our internal Aalto network folders, Aalto laptops managed by Aalto IT are all permitted for confidential data. So if you store your data in Aalto network folder, which has access rights in place and you are using Aalto provided, Aalto IT centrally managed laptops, then you are safe to work with personal data, confidential data like that. And if you need to use cloud storage services for sharing data, then there are restrictions, and you have to be more careful what are you doing and what systems can you do. And if you have data labeled secret, basically in all systems you will need some extra measures. And if you want to keep it simple, you can just choose the service from the list and find that suitable to you and has the permitted, and then you are good to go. And it's smooth and nice doing it that way. But if you have some other system that you will need to use, then you would have to balance these risks and extra security measures to this kind of risk analysis, and do a lot more work about thinking and making sure that you are using the data right way and the system is okay for you. It's possible, and service desk we can help you with that one as well if you really have to. But we have a list of IT services we propose to each of these categories. So we hope that you can find suitable one for your needs from that list. Another good sources of hints, a cyber security hub for research. So we have in Aalto.fi one site collecting different kind of instructions about cyber security, and then there's a good encryption guide at skighub.aalto.fi, and that has detailed instructions how to, for example, use pretty good privacy PG for encrypting your files files if you have secret data and you will need encryption. Encryption is a very strong security measure, and you can have your data secured very well with that. If you know what you are doing, just make it. You have to make sure that you are using a strong enough password and keeping it safe and not revealing it. But like properly done, it's very strong. Then we could go about some more complicated issues, which would be the question how to collaborate if you have confidential data. Like we have this one easy option is to use the Aalto network drive with Aalto laptop, but that's only Aalto internal. What if you have external partners? So the first one is the easy option. We have this Aalto project group. So we set up a network folder that can be accessed only restricted to the project group, and everything works fine with the Aalto laptops. What if we throw in, let's say, one not Aalto employee, perhaps Aalto student or student from another organization that would create a thesis and work as a research assistant at the same time. So then you have two options. You should somehow arrange them an Aalto laptop, because if you have confidential personal data and you are giving your own personal laptop in use, then you might not have the malware protection, you might not have the laptop encryption, so the user actually is responsible for all that IT management and administration of the laptop and the security of the laptop. And Aalto has really trouble to go and say behalf of some student or even employees to their personal laptops that okay, they will keep them secure and it's everything. So it's very hard to take responsibility for that. So that's why we propose that everyone should use Aalto laptop dealing with confidential data. And we have this kind of a system called VDI, which is virtual desktop infrastructure. Practically, it means that there's virtually one computer that is in Aalto network area connected to this teamwork data, and then user will use personal laptop to connect to that computer to the cloud, and then the actual data processing happens only inside Aalto in that virtual desktop infrastructure and inside there. So that would be one option if you cannot arrange the Aalto laptop, that they could use this environment to securely access the personal data and analyze with that. Then another case we have would be if we need to transfer a set of confidential survey data. So we have a Finnish partner university working with Aalto Research Group, and they are doing a survey and getting some data, and Aalto researchers are participating and analyzing the data with them. And so in this case, what they would like to do in the workflow, that they collect the data, they share it with Aalto for analysis, and Aalto share the results back to them. I call this University B. So here we have a thing that now we are moving on. Do we have huge data set or small, or are we making a permanent collaboration or single transfer? So in this case, we are doing in the corner of the single transfer. So we can use one-time transfer using the FUNET file sender and use this encryption because the data was confidential inside the system. So the University B will just encrypt the file they have with file sender and send it up to Aalto researchers, which will use the local Aalto drive to store the data during the analysis, and then share the results back with the FUNET file sender. So that option would work very well. Other similar options would be using OneDrive for Business or the secure email for that. But I would prefer the FUNET file sender for simplicity and the encryption for security in this case. And then another case, if we would make a research contract with Finnish company, and there's some innovation aspect and commercialization possibilities with the technology involved. So we have a contract with a Finnish company, and there's a commercial potential and benefits for both for that research in technology. But the research in Aalto experimental research will get this hundreds of gigabytes during this experimental data for measurement and process data from the company. So we have I'm talking now a huge data set in a sense, and a lot of data. And so we will need in this case several solutions. For eDuni workspaces would be a secure place to store this confidential data that has some commercially valuable information, but it only limits to some gigabytes, so it won't work for the experimental data or the process data. And so they will use OneDrive for Business to share this large, which has 5 terabytes quarter, to share these large files with each other. And for the process data in the company, they will own it and they will store it in their own secure system, and they will just provide Aalto VPN access to Aalto researchers to access the company data and the company environment in this case. So that would not transfer to Aalto at all. So these 3 were examples how you could in different settings, whether you have one-time transfer or longer collaboration project, use some of our services to work with confidential data. But if we go to more stricter options and things, we have data that classifies as secret, and when the disclosure might cause explicit some great damage, or research partner we have has a special demand that they demand very high level of security. And those examples could be national security health data, patient records, or some sensitive personal data, even dual use technologies. We're not dealing with personal data, but the technologies might be such interesting that the work and research should be kept secret. So one case there would be that we would have this international collaboration, few partners internationally, and they will have some patient originated data. So the data actually is not medical data in a sense, but research subset are patients. So we will get some health related data from people that has been patients, so they has to be safeguarded at the same level. And now they need to upload this data and share with this partner network for analysis. And for this case, the partners will be arranged an Aalto visitor account, and they will have a VPN access. So then you can use the Aalto teamwork, which has large capacity, to share all this health data. So that's how the partners and Aalto University researchers can get to the same safe storage. But that requires that every researcher from the partner organization has to apply for the visitor account in Aalto, and they have to install the VPN service to access Aalto Teamwork Network Drive. So that's why the research project also uses Google Drive, and that's for sharing the non-confidential project information, not this actual research data, but everything around it, like plans and their communications. That is not confidential or not secret, so they can share that in Google. So this kind of to make this arrangement for the most secret data, you might want to use another service for this ordinary data, because most of the projects have many kinds of data classified. So every project data doesn't fall always under public or confidential or secret, but then you also might have this need that it's good to use several solutions in one project, because sometimes it might have for this, for example, partners, visitor accounts and VPNs are not the easiest way, but for example, Google Drive provides this simultaneous editing of documents, so they can draft the plan together easily. So they have found it more convenient to use 2 systems instead of just using one that's safe and secure enough. And then another case would be when you have some health originated data that you would like to make a computational science analysis for this kind of big data. So you can use Triton for secret data, but you should pseudonymize the data so that you will use for the analysis part. The data is pseudonymized without direct identifiers, and then the direct identifiers of the research subset and people whose health data is in question are stored separately in teamwork, and the data file is encrypted with a password. So even if it leaks to someone else for some reason, they will still need the encryption password to get these identifiers. So that would be how you can save, because you cannot do a lot of analysis for encrypted data, so that has to be open, of course, but then you can do the analysis for pseudonymous data, because you don't normally do the analysis for the name. So actual social security number, you can replace that with another ID. So these are not necessary data for the research and analysis. You can do the pseudonymization, but you have to keep just the direct identities encrypted in a safe place. So these were two examples and tools. So what do we have for secret data? First thing we propose is to use encryption to project data, and that allows you even to use the cloud services for sharing. And there's a good guide on the SkyComp, that aalto.fi page, about how to do the encryption in practice. Some tools, we have Sophos private crypto software installed to Aalto laptops. And in Linux system, you could use this BGP, which is a very strong tool as well. And for example, the Funet file sender service has built-in encryption option. You just have to tick the box that I want to use the encryption, give the password, and the data will be encrypted in your browser, in your computer, and then only sent encrypted to the server and shared encrypted mode. And the recipient will get this encrypted file as well. And then you have to give another route, another channel, using another channel to give the recipient the correct password that you have been using. And they can decrypt the file only using that password. But that works only for the single transfers. For doing a collaboration daily with a file sender might be a little bit too troublesome. And if you have sensitive personal data, it's always a good idea to minimize the use of it and pseudonymize it, so that the direct identifiers would not have been exposed very easily. So they would have been encrypted, and then you can analyze with the pseudonymized data. So that's how you can mitigate the risk about revealing some personal data or sensitive personal data. And if you want to publish or archive this kind of data, or publish in an archive, then there are usually some discipline-specific special repositories like Elixir, as is for this kind of bio and life sciences data. And then there are systems like Biopankit, which are Finnish different systems in there, some sairaanhoitopiirit, or in different parts of the country, they are collecting this kind of medical and health data to one bank, and usually the persons give their consent so that their personal data and health data may be transferred for research use in this kind of place. So those are collecting data sets for research that you can also use, and if you produce some data in your research, they might all even be stored to that kind of place. So these kind of special solutions and arrangements are usually needed if you want to archive or publish some research data you have done based on some health data. But it's possible, and it has been used, but it needs some extra arrangement. And then about extra security measures we have in place. So how you could make your secret data that you will feel safe about it. So we can do some customization with network. There might be VPN connections arranged, or firewalls and extra settings on the network layer. In extreme case, we could also use VeraCrypt containers, so that instead of encrypting single files, you will have the whole encrypted file system as a whole, for example. And in that case, even a USB drive might be an option, that you have everything under there is then encrypted, and it always needs the password like to open it and use the file. So even if you lose the USB drive or USB stick or whatever thing, in that case the content is encrypted and no one can access that without a correct key. Then we have a technology called multi-factor authentication, already in use in our Microsoft Office 365 services. So you will get, for example, a accept request to access some document in your mobile phone, and you have to also confirm that you want to access the resource. So that's why we might, for the custom setups and solutions, even enable that kind of service. And then there are other custom setups also that are available that we can think of if you have a special case with secret data and how to fit for the research process. But those are such rare that we don't have huge list of ready-made services for that. So we currently first have to do then case by case, and then when we get several, we can copy the previous solution. And you can contact always security@aalto.fi with any security request or get this kind of custom solutions that you would like to have with your secret data. They are there to help, and even if you think that there's some breach or something bad has happened, please contact them first. They are ready to help, and they have good processes, good expertise, and know how to handle these cases, and like to so that everyone can be on the safe side, and it will make, if the situation is bad, you will get help first, not punishment. So that's always a good address to contact. Don't be afraid. And about the future, we are planning on to having these kind of capabilities that we would include access logging to network folders, so that we would have a network service like Teamwork, but that would be for the secret data, so that each time someone access any file or folder, we can log that and have an audit log about this access. That has been required every now and then for secret data, for example. So we are working on that to provide this kind of capability for those researchers in need. And also we are working about, and I'm currently doing a survey about Aalto researcher needs about his health data. And there's a new legislation, or relatively new legislation about toisiolaki called, which is how to use health originated data in research settings. And there's like one authority, government authority called FinData, which can give you a research permit to some health data from a hospital or from those national bodies, the government bodies like DHL, TTL, and such. So you can get some data set for research and a permit for that if you share them with your research plan. But the catch-up is that they provide you a secure environment inside what environment you have to do your research. But if that environment is not good enough for you, then you will have to provide an audited and legislation governed right secure environment in place. And now we are going to survey, do we need such another environment in Aalto for Aalto University research and Aalto University research needs, and how we could provide that. The legislation is in effect on 1st of May next year, so we have a few months time to prepare for that if the ready-made infrastructure is not good enough. So these are not the easiest cases, and there are a lot of custom work, but with encryption you can do a lot. And of course we are trying to enable as we can the research with health data, with patient data. It's very important to research also these issues and things related to sensitive personality, things like health as well. So we are here to support you and make your research possible and make it also secure with any storage and sharing systems. So last I would just want to say to everyone, you to handle with care. We are here to help you. You can contact research data at aalto.fi, service desk at aalto.fi, security at aalto.fi for your research data needs, whether it's regards storage, confidential data, or classified data, anything like that. So please, everyone, stay with your data, handle with care, and I think I now we'll be ready for the question part.